2019 was the best year in the last decade for film. Hello, my name is Jared Gilster, and thank you for coming to my channel and watching my favorite movies of 2019 video. If you could, please consider pressing the subscribe button and following me and watching all of my new content. That'd be great. But I also need to get into a couple disclaimers before I get into my favorite movies of 2019. First off, you need to know that just because I gave a movie a high grade and maybe another movie a lower grade does not mean that that movie is going to be higher than the lower one. It's based off of my personal taste, my opinion, what I like to see, and that's just how I created this list. And this list is not even permanent. As I was making this list over a couple weeks, movies shifted. They went up and down. I have my opinion change all the time. Sometimes I see good things about movies, sometimes things change in movies. It's my opinion, and it's not set in stone. So with that being said, let's get into my honorable mentions of 2019. Ad Astra, El Camino, A Breaking Bad Story, The Farewell, Knives Out, The Lighthouse, Peanut Butter Falcon, Rocket Man, Uncut Gems. I really did enjoy all these movies on my honorable mention list, but they did not quite crack my top 10. So with that being said, let's get started. Number 10, Toy Story 4. The Toy Story franchise is one of those trilogies that I just grew up watching. Toy Story 4 has amazing animation, the best of all the series, and it is a great addition to the series in general. I thought that Toy Story 3 was a good way of ending the trilogy, and I was satisfied at that point, and I wasn't quite sure why they wanted to make a Toy Story 4, but after giving it a lot of thought, rewatching it a few times, I do think that it has a rightful place in this franchise. Number 9. Parasite. Parasite is probably the most unique film of 2019. Most of the time when people recommend a foreign film and they're like, hey Jared, you should check out this foreign film. I think you'll like it a lot. Yeah, sure, okay. It's just that there's a lot of movies that I want to see, a lot of movies that I have to see that I haven't seen yet, so foreign films don't quite make it onto the C list for me. Parasite is an incredible exception. This movie is wholly unique. It's a story that I feel like I've never even come close to seeing before. This film just juggles these two tones of thrill and terror, and then also comedy and humor. These two tones just blend together perfectly in this film, and that's why it's my 9th favorite film of 2019. Number 8. John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. I am a huge sucker for action franchises. I'm a big fan of the original Bourne trilogy. I love James Bond, and I really enjoy the Mission Impossible franchise as well. And I feel like John Wick is just another new addition into that group of films, and I love it. Keanu Reeves is just the pillar in the John Wick franchise, and in John Wick Chapter 3, it picks up after the cliffhanger of John Wick Chapter 2. And in John Wick 3, just the majority of this movie is just balls to the wall. Keanu Reeves just kicking ass. And it is just so fun to watch. The type of dedication that he has to all the fighting choreography for these long, huge, wide takes of these super intricate fights, the kind of dedication that it takes him and all the rest of the cast is just mind-blowing to me. The fact that Keanu Reeves puts in the time to learn that, as well as all the gun choreography, that's a whole nother beast in this film. But the type of work that he puts into these films is amazing, and I love John Wick Chapter 3. It's one of my favorite action movies of the past decade, and that's why it sits at number 8 for me. Number 7, Jojo Rabbit. Taika Waititi is one of the only directors who could ever handle this comedic tone along with the subject matter of Nazi Germany. And Jojo Rabbit is all about this young kid who's in Hitler's youth, who's just a diehard Hitler fanatic. He has an imaginary, character in his head who actually embodies himself as Hitler, who's played by Taika Waititi. It plays off super hilariously. Everyone was laughing in this movie, and it's a great breath of fresh air when it feels like today a lot of times we can't joke about certain things. We can't even talk about things in certain ways, or else we're going to be, seen as like intolerant or, trying to attack someone. The fact that this movie was made and that it was accepted by almost everyone is just a great, step in the right direction, that we can all just take a little humor in our lives, and we can also bring that along with some very serious tones of, obviously Nazi Germany and the Holocaust. And in this movie, it also does handle those things very well. It's just an amazing film, almost like Parasite, where it handles these two very, oddly separate end of the spectrum subjects and tones, and it just handles them beautifully, and I really enjoy Jojo Rabbit. Number 6, Avengers Endgame. If the MCU ended with Avengers Endgame, I would be totally satisfied. The MCU can almost be thought of as a TV show where it has a lot of episodes in it, and Avengers Endgame is an incredible finale to that entire series. Not only does Avengers Endgame deliver a satisfying conclusion to our main Avenger characters, but along the way it does pay great respects to all the movies from the past. There's a lot of awesome nods to a lot of my favorite MCU films, which I enjoyed, and I thought Joe and Anthony Russo delivered one of the greatest films in the MCU. At this point, we're going to be moving into my top 5 of 2019. Just remember, when I flicked on this camera, all 5 of these movies were moving around as I was creating this list. I loved all these movies, but at this point, this is the order that I have them in. Number 5, The Irishman. This film is a return to form for Martin Scorsese back into crime epics like his films Goodfellas and Mean Streets. And this movie does rise to that level yet again. This movie just boasts an incredibly talented cast with Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci, who returned out of retirement for this film. And through Robert De Niro's character, Frank Sheeran, we have him recalling his time with Jimmy Hoffa and also the Buffalino family. Horrible pronunciation. I don't care. I don't care. Netflix gave Martin Scorsese a blank check for this movie. They said, make the movie you want to make. And this film just comes across as 100% authentic Martin Scorsese. Number 4, Ford versus Ferrari. James Mangold follows up his incredible film Logan with another incredible film, Ford versus Ferrari, starring Matt Damon and Christian Bale. And these two actors have incredible chemistry as they play Carroll Shelby, the owner of Shelby America, who builds these really sweet cars and was also a racer in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And then alongside of him, we have Ken Miles, who is the new racer, played by Christian Bale, who's like a hard-to-work-with guy, very tough, very gritty, and he's just a guy who is a complete 100% competitor. And as they work together to build a car to race in the 24-hour Le Mans against Ferrari, they have to do it under the umbrella of the company Ford. And they have to deal with a lot of bureaucracy that goes along with that. It's just about the American spirit of competition and just fighting to, win. That is the great thing about this movie. It's an incredibly masculine theme in this film, just about winning and competition. And that's why I love Ford versus Ferrari. Number 3, Joker. Joker is a movie that if you told me 3 years ago that we're going to get it, I would have told you that you are insane. Almost like Arthur Fleck. Not quite Arthur Fleck for obvious reasons, but it just boasts an amazing performance by Joaquin Phoenix, who's playing Arthur Fleck, who's going to be turning into the Joker, and this guy who's just tormented by his mental illness, along with just the society of Gotham, where it just is a super dark and hopeless place. It's just riddled with crime, and how he has these kind of hallucinations or, experiences in his head where he builds things up and he just has the rug ripped out from under him again and again throughout this film. And you see him just kind of decaying in his mind and being kind of introduced to some ways where he thinks that he can get some sort of recognition. And it's an amazing film. And I think that Joaquin Phoenix has probably the greatest performance of the year playing this character. And it's just insane that we got it. It doesn't feel like it's a real thing that this movie exists, but it's just an incredible step into just, artistic expression with these like comic book characters. It doesn't all have to be CGI, blockbuster films. This was a movie with a small budget, but with just a very focused story, and it's incredible, and I really enjoyed The Joker. Number 2, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is Quentin Tarantino's 9th film, and it stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Margot Robbie. And it takes place in 1969 Hollywood, and it's his love letter to Hollywood, or at least the Hollywood that he grew up knowing. This movie focuses on 2 characters, one played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who's this actor who feels like he's on his downward descent in Hollywood. He used to be a big movie star in a lot of like Western TV shows, but he's starting to become put in these lesser roles, and he just is kind of feeling the world crumbling around him. And then we also have Brad Pitt, who is Leonardo DiCaprio's stuntman, and he is just the actual manly man that Leonardo DiCaprio plays in the films. Brad Pitt plays this, gruff, rough and tough guy who was a World War II veteran, and he is just, this guy that knows how to fix everything, and he also, gets in a lot of fights in the movie. And between these two characters, you just have a lot of great moments of friendship. Along with that, you have a lot of comedic elements, and this movie is probably Quentin Tarantino's funniest movie, and then especially the last 15 minutes of this film. Pure cinematic gold. If you have any personal disdain for hippies, you're going to love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And at number 1, we have 1917. I knew it was a great idea to wait for 1917. I just knew it. 1917 was one of the most immersive cinematic experiences of my life. This movie is made to be one continuous shot following these two British soldiers in World War I as they are delivering a message that will save thousands of British lives against this German army that is about to ambush them. And as I stated in my review of 1917, this is probably the most transcendent film I've ever seen. And what I mean by this movie being transcendent is that ever since I've seen this movie, I can't stop thinking about it. It has really affected me on a personal level. When I watched it, it really just moved me in all the right ways. And when I was watching it, it just made me, look at these guys and the kind of sacrifice that they're able to make. And these aren't just so idealistic type of characters that they're unrelatable, but they are just very relatable, and you're able to see the kind of things that they're willing to do for each other, the way that they're able to lay down their lives on this pretty small mission, where you usually watch a war film and they're trying to accomplish this big task of we need to win the war, or we need to save the universe in some films. But this movie is about this one small little mission and these two characters and what they're willing to do to save these guys' lives, their other fellow British soldiers' lives. And it just works on every level for me. I feel like it just, captured everything about war super well. Not only does it capture, the tragedy of war, but also just the idea of what you're fighting for, what it's able to bring out of people and make men truly men, what they're able to, do to sacrifice for each other. I think that it's one of the greatest movies ever. It's one of my favorite war movies ever, and that's why it is my favorite movie of 2019. Honestly, 2019 was one of the greatest years of film that I've ever been on planet Earth to see. I'm so happy with what we got with everything. Not every movie that came out in 2019 was amazing, but with my top 10 list, I just look back on it and I was like, this was an amazing year. I had a lot of movies that I really liked, but let me know what movies you guys liked in 2019. Tell me what your favorite movies are down below. Comment, tell me what those were, and maybe we can have a little discussion. I'd really enjoy it. And also, if you could leave a like on this video, I'd really appreciate it. Hit the notification bell and the subscribe button. You'll be told when I release new content. Or if you don't really have a YouTube account or a Gmail account or whatever, you can follow me on Instagram at Jared Gilster. I also post on there when I'm releasing new content, so you'll be notified there when you're going through your feed. And I will see you guys next time.